began in Science of Mind in 2001 at Huntington Beach, CSL. Took many classes, first with Reverend Dr. Pat Campbell, then with practitioner Beth Haas, Reverend Dr. Sherry Sorbo, and Reverend Dr. Catherine Buchanan here at CSL TV. To have these wise mentors standing with me is immeasurable to me. I was then licensed practitioner in 2015, began Ministerial School in 2018 with a plan to savor every class, not rush through it, and graduate in 2021 with a smiley face, or whenever the time is right. We know God, right? I have taught classes and workshops, and my heart space vibrates with teaching. My greatest joy is to celebrate with this community and to participate in learning and embodying the song principles and create better lives for others as well. So this is her bio, but at the end she says, and go Rams. Keep that in mind. I want everyone to welcome our ministerial intern. I want to say Reverend Charlene.
Truly, I do mean that. I have to start out today with sincere gratitude. My heart is filled. It is such a great gift for me to be delivered to this point in time by these wise ones who guided me, and each and every one of you, because we are in this together. We are all walking each other home, and it is a collective effort that I stand here today, and I'm just grateful for that. And what a gift that my first talk can be here with you. I am overwhelmed with gratitude for that, for you to say yes to me, for Reverend Catherine to say yes to me, and for me to just be able to look at these loving eyes and faces and take a breath and center in and know it's all going to be okay. So thank you. I really appreciate it. We're starting in January, and great. My talk title is, it's time to ask yourself, what do you believe in? And it comes from Indiana Jones. Myself, like Reverend Catherine, I love movies. I'm a movie buff. And Reverend Catherine is certainly a movie buff as well, and she loves Star Wars. And while I do like a good Yoda quote, I'm secretly in love with Indiana Jones. And when I was given the talk today, I was looking into our overarching theme this year, which is life is a spiritual adventure, live courageously. And so when I read that, I just immediately went into my indie zone, and I thought, we're going to find something together to look at courage and adventure together, and Indiana Jones is at the center of that today. And so last Sunday, Reverend Catherine began with taking a small step, right? We talked about how just a small action can lead to a revolution. She talks about that. And so I'd like to continue that today and talk about maybe we be brave together and we take just a little bit bigger of a step. I don't know if we'll take a leap, but we will take a step together. And so I wanted to start today, we're talking about journeys and we're talking about adventure, and I wanted to lead it off with a cute story about Albert Einstein that I recently read. And it goes like this. The story is about Albert Einstein. He, of course, is the brilliant, crazy-haired physician, and he was a physicist at the Princeton University in the early 20th century, and he was traveling from Princeton on a train. And when the conductor came down the platform to punch the tickets, you could see Mr. Einstein was frantically looking about himself, and he was looking for his ticket to be punched. And he was looking in his vest pocket, and he was looking in his pants pockets, and he looked at his briefcase, and he looked very befuddled. And the conductor was so gracious with him and said, "Professor Einstein, Dr. Einstein, don't worry. I know who you are. We all know who you are. And I'm sure you bought a ticket. And so he passed by, and as the conductor moved down the aisle, he looked back and he noticed Dr. Einstein was still frantically looking for his ticket, and he was looking under his chair, and he was on the floor. And so the conductor rushed back to him to assure him, Dr. Einstein, it's okay. We know who you are. You don't need a ticket. I'm sure you bought one. And Einstein arose and looked at the dear conductor and said, young man, I too know who I am. What I don't know is where I'm going. And I just love that story so much because I feel that way so many times, right? We're starting new in January, we're kind of starting over, and a lot of us are taking up new affirmations. We're starting new challenges for ourselves. We're maybe going to try to create a better life for ourselves or make some changes this year. And sometimes we really don't know where we're going because the path, even though it's there, is sometimes invisible to us. And so today we're going to journey in adventure with Indy and other stories, and we're going to talk about what do we believe? Do we trust? Because, as Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, states, we must trust the invisible, for it is the sole cause of that which is visible. So the invisible creates all that we see, all that we hear, all that we taste and touch, right? It's so easy to know, right, that if you feel the chair beneath you, it's there. I feel the ground beneath me. It feels there. And I believe that. And yet, do I embody and believe that the invisible is ever present, always supporting, always sourcing, always guiding, always guarding? I just can't see it all the time. Because it truly is done unto us as we believe. And that's going to be one of the themes that moves through this talk today. And so, we don't always see the path in front of us, but it is there. And so I'm going to lead off our talk with a short video. Yes, when you have talks with Charlene, we're just going to watch movies. I think that's what we should do. But movies sometimes have an underlying message that we don't always see. But then when we see it in a new perspective, it comes to life for us. So this is about Indiana Jones and his adventure. And we'll start the movie. Because I don't want you to hear all day about how much of a message is in just that one scene. I love almost every part of each step of that scene, and I think it's very courageous that the director put that together in such a way. Because we don't always see the path in front of us. That's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about belief and truly embodying it. Because Indy got to the edge of that precipice, right? And you look out and you think, well, there's no way. It's impossible. And yet, he pulled out his guidebook, right? So that's one of his tools. He's got all that wealth of experience and education, and he knows what he knows, and he's got his book, and then he puts his hand to his heart space, closes his eyes, takes a breath. And you can almost see it, right? You can almost see it wash over him that he does know the truth, that this is possible. And then finally, that exaggerated, I'll do it with my heels, exaggerated step. Wasn't a small step, it was exaggerated. And I think that's so important because sometimes we are stuck, we do not see the way in front of us, and sometimes we need a good exaggerated step forward, just to move us on the path. And I think that's very powerful, the way they put that all together. Because sometimes it is a stretch. I get it. Life is moving, and we are experiencing this life on this plane of existence, and for me, what I know is, so far, is I only get one chance at this life on this plane of existence. If any of you have another understanding, you can see me after service and you can tell me all about it. But for right now, we have one shot. And life is meant to be lived to the fullest And just like we feel the ground beneath our feet and we trust that, God is living itself, having its experience through us. We are living, breathing embodiment of the living God. And I really believe God wants us to have a good time. Live the highest and best life, the most freedom, the most love, the most grace. I think that's what is pouring through us. But do we choose to believe it? Do we choose to trust it? Because life can be tough. We get diagnoses. We have the loss of a loved one, somebody we care about. Maybe we're not as financially free as we would like to experience all that we want to experience. I get it. We have stuff. But Ernest Holmes says this: we should expand our thought until it realizes all good, then cut right through all that appears to be, and use this almighty power for definite purposes. Use it. Just like Indy went to his guidebook, he went within for a second, he trusted all of his tools to take that exaggerated step out. And so you might be saying, well, that's great, Charlene. I appreciate all these pearls of wisdom. But what does that mean for me? And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But maybe it's in pushing ourselves a little bit. Maybe we take a bigger step. Maybe we be courageous together on this life adventure because we are in it together. And so Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe." And when he said that, he not only announced the law of faith, he explained how it works. First, he implied that there is a law which operates on your faith. All laws are universal, and hence they exist wherever you are, all the time. So if there is a law of faith, it is right where you are, and it will operate like any other law. So maybe we start right where we are and open ourselves up, and we just take a small look at what it is we believe. Because what we believe is what shows up in our experience. If we believe what Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe," then what is in our life expression is what we believe. And so recently, a good friend of mine, a beloved friend of mine, and she's very wise, she said, Charlene, so you have a teacup, and somebody bumps into you, and your tea spills. And she said, "So why did your tea spill?" And I said, "Well, duh, because somebody bumped into me." And she said, "No, your tea spilled because you had tea in your cup. If you had coffee would spill, right?" And so it made me think, when we get bumped by life, what is spilling out? Is it patience and love and grace with a friend or someone that we aren't resonating with, not understanding? Or is it frustration, anger, resentment? When we get bumped by life, what we believe spills out of us. And so maybe we can just start looking at trained thought versus untrained thought. Because trained thought is so much more powerful. So even that small, that's a big step. If you could look every day at what are my thoughts, what are my words, what are my actions, what am I doing, what am I giving to life and to others. And that's a great first step. And I want to come back to having a good time, because we are supposed to be having a good time. And so I want to start with a story about my beloved Zach. And let me say, full disclosure, Zach did vet all stories and proved them. So there's that. So Zach must have been about 3. He was little. And it was after dinner, and it was quiet. All the dishes are washed. And it was quiet. And if you have children or fur babies, you know that sometimes if it's quiet, mischievous stuff could be happening. So I thought I better check on Zach. I walked around the corner, came into the kitchen, and there Zach was at the counter, and he had a big bowl of peanut M&Ms. We had just had a party. And he had the bowl in front of him, and he was happily eating. And so I totally went into my best mom mode, right? And put my hands on my hips and said, excuse me, sir, did you ask? And Zach, without missing a beat, turned and looked at me and said, yes. I asked my brain and he said yes. And so, you know, I think we lose sight of that, right? That we are meant to say yes. I love the synchronicity of life. Mary today in her invocation said, yes. Yes to life. We should be saying yes to each other and to life more often. Because God is what it is. It does what it does, and that's an it with a capital I-T. You can insert whatever word works for you, and it works the way it works. It appears to each of us the way we believe. So just like Zach, 100% invested in his yes, enjoying the bowl, the fruit, if you will, he said yes to life. He said yes to the abundance of the M&M bowl. But that really is the truth for all of us. I know we're getting a little chuckle out of it, but we are divinely guided to have it all. No lack. Love beyond measure. Freedom beyond measure. That is at our disposal at any moment. But what do we believe? Do we believe it? Do we believe that as much as we can stand on this ground and feel this table? Because faith really is not a blind leap. Because we have tools in our proverbial spiritual tool belt at our disposal. It could be prayer, classes, affirmations, just being here and saying yes to being in this congregation right now. Because if you've come to the center and maybe you've heard about meditation, but you've never done meditation per se, it seems a little scary, maybe I don't think I can close my eyes and concentrate for half an hour. I don't think that's just too much. Maybe that would be a great big first step for us. Because I guarantee you, you say yes to that meditation class, at the end of that class you can meditate confidently, connect with Source, your divine inner being, and meditate for half an hour or beyond. Because what seems to be impossible will become possible as you believe it. So maybe it's, dare I say, tithing. Incredible spiritual practice. Because when you say yes to Spirit, in whatever form it is, whether it's financially, if it's talking to the waitress at the restaurant who inspired you and gave you an incredible aha, and you tithe to her, if you see something on Facebook that is awe-inspiring, and you tithe to it with either a word, maybe you write them, or even financially support them, that says to God, yes, I am opening up to life. And you know what God does? Spirit says, here you go. Spirit ups the ante every time. It's like a great game of poker. Spirit just says, okay, you gonna do that? I'm gonna give you more. And that really is the truth. So we have tools in our tool belt to help us take that step out and have a greater faith. Just this small step of taking a good, gratifying look at all the gifts that we have in our own lives every day, because we all have them. We have so much to be grateful for. Even that small step every day says yes to Spirit. It says yes to God. One of my favorite quotes is from St. Francis of Assisi, and he says, start by doing what's necessary, then what is possible, and suddenly you're doing the impossible. And it's taking that step of faith. So circling back around to the Indiana Jones theme, just like recently the family, we went to Disneyland. And Susie, my wife Susie's favorite ride is the Indiana Jones ride. And so of course we had to go on. And Zach, continuing in this theme of this time together, is not a roller coaster guy. But he is saying yes to opening himself up, and he tried a few roller coasters, and he was feeling it, he's liking it. And so he said, yes, I will go on Indiana Jones. And so he got on the ride. And if you've never experienced it, it's a great ride. You're in a Jeep, like a cargo kind of Jeep. And you buckle yourself in, you feel very secure. You've got a little cargo net in front of you for your goodies. And there's a padded railing around that you can hold on to. But it feels like a Jeep. And so you get in, and I watched Zach, and he was quiet, and he was holding on to the padded railing. And I said, oh, Mom kind of took over, and I was like, oh, I hope he likes it. Hope he's not too scared. And so we take off on the ride, and it is a dark, cobwebby, spidery adventure. And there are pretend arrows zooming by you, and you feel the wind, and the Jeep starts to move and careen, and it's fun. And I looked over at Zach, and he was hanging on, right? And I thought, oh, I hope he can settle into it. And then I kind of, candidly, I forgot about him for a while because I was having a good time. So then I looked over at him a little later, and he had a smile on his face, and dare I say, like even little giggles. He was enjoying the ride. Now, he still had his hands firmly placed on the grab bar, but he was enjoying the twists, the turns, the loud noises, and the creepy crawlies that appeared to be all over the place. And it made me think of what we're talking about today, because life can be that way. There are a lot of turns. There's a lot of creepy crawlies. And yet, when we think of faith and belief and trust, just as secure as that Jeep that we were riding in with the pads, we can manage life a little bit easier. The more we trust and see how God actually shows up in our lives, the more confidence we have in moving forward. And you can enjoy the ride. Now, it still is, I get it still can be scary, but I promise you, the more that you experience trust, it's like you build up your spiritual muscle. And then, almost like a science experiment, you go, okay, that worked. I believe it a little bit more. And then the next adventure that we go through is not quite as bumpy, not quite as rough, because we've got that deepening trust in God, in ourselves. And you can really enjoy the ride because God has you. Because faith sees the invisible, believes the incredible, and receives the impossible. And so I think we can be just like Indy. We are explorers, we are adventurers, this is our life. And are we taking those steps in faith, seeing through what we think we see, to get in back of and see the invisible power and presence that is always fully supporting us, always guiding us? So I think we can be courageous together. So my highest hope for you this week, or until we meet again, is you take into your heart the experiences of Indy. Remember that clip, that when he threw the dirt back onto the path, right, at the end, and then the path became clear. You will have those experiences in your life where you will go through a rough patch, but you'll turn around and go, oh yeah, there was God. Had me the whole time. So taking that big, trusting faith, taking that big, exaggerated leap out in front of you, even in the midst of any challenge, to know that Spirit is always underfoot. Trust that God has created the path, is leading and lighting the way. So let's initiate plans for a larger life together now.
And so it is.